everyone, this is Tony from her Homestead Skills, and this morning I guess the first thing on the agenda is my experiment with my peas. And a number of you have suggested that they appear to be what is called marrow fat peas, and I suspect that you were all right. What I have determined is that marrow fat peas are actually peas that have been allowed to dry on the vine and then they're picked, rather than picked fresh and then allowed to dry, which is two different things. And for some reason they react differently. So the so-called marrow fat peas I've allowed them to actually rehydrate for 2 days, and they're still hard, so now they need to be cooked. And I'm told that they turn into what is called mushy peas, and I suspect they're probably right about that. Now, I remember years and years and years and years ago that acquaintances, friends at the time, we spent a lot of time with these folks, invited us up to their place, and we were served what the young lady called honky peas. And I believe that honky peas was the marrow fat peas. It was mushy, and Mark really enjoyed them. And when he got home, he tried to make mushy peas from regular peas. And that was a bit of a long, involved process, mashing them up, cooking them, and mashing them, and cooking them, and mashing them, and they were not the same thing. So I let him know that it's quite likely that we now have the peas that will actually turn into what he knows as hunky peas, and that the correct term for them is mushy peas. So that's that, and he thought that was great, so I suspect that I will go out and buy another bag, and that should be more than enough to keep us in mushy peas for the next year. Okay, so that's my experiment on the mushy peas, and you could see the difference between the dried, and I believe that was, this is probably 1/3, this was 2/3, because this jar was full at one point, and that's what I poured into that one. So, they do swell up, they do taste like peas, they were still a little bit hard, I tried them, but they're definitely regular peas. Just for some reason, the fact that they dry on the vine, rather than drying them fresh picked, gives them a different taste and a different consistency. Okay, so much for our update on peas. I guess one of the things I'd like to discuss today is a post that I received, a little while back, not that long ago, but it was somebody who claimed that she felt sorry for my kind because I have a serious addiction to prepping, and it's something I need to address, and she, for one, will not feed that addiction. I thought, okay, must be a young person, I don't know. Most of the older generation recognize that prepping has been something that has been done for thousands of years, and probably it's only the last generation or two that have moved away from that, especially in North America. I suspect it might be different in other countries, but in North America we have subscribed to the just-in-time format, even for the foods that we eat. So we have foods that are picked all over the world and distributed all over the world, and we can get what we need locally just in time when we want it, and just about any food is available to us. And we've become accustomed to that, and very few make provisions for the disruption of that chain. Us older folks that perhaps have been taught by our mothers and grandmothers to prepare for hard times or difficult times or times of shortages, think a little bit differently. I would definitely concur with this woman's thought that yes, I am prepping a whole lot more this last couple of years than I have in the past. In the past, perhaps my tomatoes were the number one item to prep, and that was mainly so that I could have fresh tomatoes for tomato sauce and for pasta year-round, and not have to buy canned products, which doesn't have the same flavor and doesn't have the same taste. I don't know that there really is any more cost savings. There used to be. It used to be very cost effective to can your own. I don't know that that's the case today, but it doesn't matter. There's a definite difference in the quality of the product. So I will continue to can my own tomatoes forever, as long as I am able to. And definitely, this past 2 years has placed some emphasis on keeping a lot of other foods in stock. And it started off, of course, with the issue that we had 2 years ago, and has only continued with the current, what appears to be, attack on food supplies. Whether it's trying to stop farmers from growing certain crops, including beef, or whether it's food plants not having product, or perhaps those that distribute product, truckers can no longer get it to market, farmers can no longer produce it. So anyone that thinks that the food chain has not been disrupted is blind, as far as I'm concerned. And if you choose to accept whatever gets to market, and only what gets to market, and look after your needs and your family's needs on that, using that methodology, it's not likely that you will starve, but you certainly won't get all the food you expect to get when you want it, or you will pay a very hefty price for it. And those that say that eggs and bread and cheese and all those items are not going up in price, they have. I paid over $6 for a dozen eggs recently. Bread I have not purchased in a long time, but I understand it's upwards of $4 a loaf of bread, which you used to be able to get for $1.50. Now, and flour is still relatively inexpensive, so I have been baking my own bread for the last 2 years now. Actually, longer than that. Probably the last 5 years now. Okay, I don't consider prepping an addiction. I consider it a lifestyle choice. I prefer to say that I trust what's in my own pantry, rather than hoping that those products will be available to me when I want them. I would suggest that trusting in the system today to supply all of our food needs is probably the addiction, and one that is a fairly new one, and one that needs to be addressed. If the system breaks down, are you there, or is someone else there that has food stocks that can help you? Okay, there was this family that I'm familiar with. I don't know them well, but they were friends of family members. And years ago, when there was a huge tornado that went through Ontario, their little farm got hit badly. I understand the vehicles they had were found tossed fields away. They had one chicken left. Out of all the animals that they had one chicken left that survived. But the most difficult part was the fact that one of the walls of the home fell on the daughter. And were it not for the nurse that lived across the way from them, rushing over with an oxygen tank, because she had an oxygen tank, because she was a nurse, tank and managed to keep that girl alive until help arrived. And yes, the girl was in the hospital for a while, but she did survive and fully recovered. But had it not been for that nurse prepping with the items that she was familiar with, that she might felt that she would need, that girl would not have survived. Now, when it comes to food as well, if you are prepping just for your own family, great. If there is just a minor disruption that only lasts a week, 3 days, 5 days, a month, do you have enough to help your neighbors out? What is wrong with having a little bit of stash to make sure you can make it through an emergency? I see nothing wrong with it. I don't consider that an addiction. I don't consider that something that anyone needs to feel sorry for me for. Okay, and the reality is, even if this individual quite honestly feels that prepping is an addiction and it's one that she does not want to feed, that's fine. That she has a right to that opinion. I don't need her permission to prep. I don't need anyone's permission, and I don't need anyone to feel sorry for me because they feel I have an issue. I'm quite strong enough in my own beliefs that what I'm doing harms no one and perhaps can help someone down the road. Okay? But I guess the question is prepping an addiction? I would say it is not an addiction. It is a lifestyle, and one that we either choose or we don't. So anyway, let us know what your thoughts are on that. That's it. This is Tony from Her Homestead Skills, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.